recent Spider-Man 2 Platinum on my last video marked my 10th since I started going for them four or so months ago. So I thought, now I've started making content around the idea of achieving these Platinums, having 10 of them would be as good a time as any to take a step back and take stock of how I, a beginner in the sort of Platinum hunting, trophy hunting journey, how I feel. And also whether it's worth your time if you're thinking of going into Platinum hunting but aren't really sure whether it's worth devoting so much time into. Of course, I'll also be ranking those 10 Platinums that I have achieved in this nice fancy tier list just here. Now, I've got to stress, half of these games I haven't done videos on, simply because they're either Platinums I got before I started making content on getting Platinums, or I had half the trophies already from completing the story and just hadn't completed like all the miscellaneous collectible stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to create a video on a game that I've already got half the trophies for. Like, with all due respect, if I'm 60% of the way through a trophy list, I'm not going to make a video on me completing the last 40%. No one's going to care. So those games that I haven't done videos on, I will naturally go into a little bit more detail on my thoughts because I haven't got a full video that you could go watch and get my thoughts from. Hopefully that makes sense. If you want to watch the detailed videos on the games that I have done them on each game, I'll put a link in the top right to the corresponding video so you don't need to go hunting through my channel looking for it. Anyway, enough waffling, let's jump into it with my first ever Platinum. God of War. Specifically, the 2018 God of War. So, I think it's right that I give you a bit of context before I deep dive into each individual game, just to give you an understanding of where I've come from. God of War 2018, when I started it last year, was literally the first narrative-led game that I had played in, it must have been over 5 years. All I had played in the past 5 years since the first Spider-Man was released was sports games. FIFA, Football Manager, NBA, even Madden. I mean, you get it. So when I decided to take a break from those kind of games and play a quote-unquote proper game, I chose God of War because it had amazing reviews and it was free on PSN Plus. I mean, that was the major reason. Like, if this game had cost like a tenner, I would have gone with something else. But I did not regret it. At the time of playing God of War 2018, I had never been more engrossed in a world in a video game than I had playing this game. The writing is absolutely incredible. The world building is among the very best. And I can't lie, Christopher Judge's voice as Kratos, that shit lives in my soul rent-free for eternity.
I'm sorry.
Do not be sorry. Be better.
And that soundtrack, my word, my nipples get hard just listen to it. I can't explain it. I had absolutely no intention of getting the Platinum when I booted up this game. I had never even considered trophy hunting, Platinum hunting, whatever you want to call it. I just wanted to play a game that was different than the usual sink 3 hours into FIFA and get very angry. But I just never wanted my experience with this game to end. And that's why I went for the 100%. And that's why I went for the Platinum. I didn't go for it because I felt a need to. I went for it because I felt a want to. Getting 100% in this game was a joy. Never a chore. Okay, actually, that's not entirely true. The Ravens were pretty annoying. But other than that, all the other side content, I mean, fuck me. The whole game is an utter masterpiece. 10 out of 10 is going straight into S tier, man. My second ever Platinum was actually the first Spider-Man game. This was actually a game that I completed way back in 2018 and also got like all the districts and everything all done, but just hadn't purchased all the suits. That was it. I think, oh, and I hadn't completed all the science things actually. So maybe I hadn't got 100%. No, No, because I had to complete the science things as well, actually. But I was so close. I was like at 95% game complete, and I just didn't boot it up one day. I just stopped playing it. I got bored, which, is sort of sacrilege to most trophy hunters. But like I said, at the time, I wasn't a trophy hunter. I was just enjoying the game, playing through it, and then I stopped enjoying it at 95%, so I stopped playing it. But once I got that platinum in God of War, the tingle in my balls when I got that platinum, I noticed I was at 95% on Spiderman, and I was like, I could get that tingle again for only a few hours work. So I went back and got the platinum. It's a really good game. I mean, it's a good game. You've already played it. You've probably already got the platinum. The great combat, swinging around New York had never felt as good as it does in this game. And that's where like 70% of the enjoyment comes from. And that's not a bad thing. That's not me slating the game. Just shows how much fun it is to traverse the New York world. It just never gets old. As for the story, it's like a typical superhero story. It's fairly serviceable and has some really cool moments. But I'd be lying if I said the story stuck with me. Like when I recently did Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2 in my last video, I had to like rewatch a walkthrough of the first game to actually remind myself what happened. It doesn't stick with you like the likes of God of War does. Overall, though, it's a really calm and easy platinum experience, even on the hardest difficulty, which is why just so many people have the platinum in this game. I mean, for God's sake, it's many people's first ever platinum, and even if you're slightly interested in trophy hunting, it's one you've already got, and for that reason, it goes into A. So after taking a break for a few days, there was one game that I was practically gagging to play. God of War Ragnarok. Can it live up to my incredibly high expectations after I fell in love with the first game? Yes. Yes, it can. Ragnarok took everything that was amazing with the first game and turned that shit up to 11. The voice acting is superb. The writing is breathtaking. Even though I have to say, the Ironwood section goes on for like half an hour too long. But it is also one of the most beautiful parts of the game. And this game is stunning. Also, Richard Schiff as Odin. I don't know if I'm just missing it, but I don't feel like enough is being made of how good his performance is in this game. It's an absolutely incredible experience from beginning to end. And I recently lent the game to my brother, who I'm like reliving my memories through him sanctimoniously, because he's just talking to me about the game, and I'm getting so excited about the things he's going to experience, and he's also going for the platinum, and he has no interest. But once again, he's just so in love with the game. He's just wanting to go for it because he doesn't want to give up on the game. 11 out of 10. S-tier game and another incredible platinum experience. After finishing those two God of War games, I thought I had already experienced the largest emotional response that a game would be able to pull from me. That was until I played Last of Us Part 1. This game broke me in a way no game ever had before, and I'm not sure a game ever will again. Now, I'd obviously heard of The Last of Us before I played this game. I'd even heard the names Joel and Ellie, but I knew nothing about the story or the concept. I just knew there were zombies and there was two characters called Joel and Ellie. That's it. And I'm always skeptical when it comes to like these incredible, iconic pieces of media that are just so universally loved, because I always just think people have hyped them up so much, they're never going to live up to my expectation of them. Not here. This game surpassed every expectation I had. If you haven't played this game, you owe it to yourself. And I'm saying that like dead seriously. You owe it to yourself. Even if it's not the kind of game you usually go for, please just give it a go. Or at the very least, watch the TV show, because that shit is great as well. The remastered version is on PS Plus. So if you have a PS Plus subscription, it's literally free. But I would recommend, if you have the spare cash, you get The Last of Us Part 1 remake like I did. First of all, because if you go for the platinum, you don't have to deal with any multiplayer trophies. But also because the game is just absolutely gorgeous. People said that it's not worth getting the remake over the remaster. And I'd agree if you've already played the game like 3 or 4 times on the remaster. Paying the £40, £50 for the remake probably isn't worth it. But if you're experiencing the game for the very first time and have the cash, it's 100% worth going for the remake just for the graphical upgrade. It is night and day. Anyway, as for the game itself, the world that Naughty Dog builds here is so incredibly dark, twisted, and just full of evil. The events that our main protagonists have to go through are frankly harrowing. But throughout the whole game, there's still that little glimmer of hope that is the relationship between Joel and Ellie. Guys, I to be honest, I don't know what else to say. I cried at the start, I cried at the middle, and you best fucking believe I cried at the end. Greatest game I have ever played to date. 145.6 out of 10. Fucking S tier. Masterpiece.
Thousands and thousands of hours of football, each more climactic than the last.
Okay, so this is a bit of an odd one, to be frank. But as I'm the first person to ever achieve this platinum, it's one that I'm quite proud of. But it's also one that can be summed up pretty quickly. If you love your football and are sick of playing FIFA, honestly, give this game a go. Yes, the more complete version of the game is on PC, but not everyone has access to a PC. And I'm here to tell you that the console version is like 80% of the experience. And I'd even say the graphics engine on console looks a lot better than it does on PC. I'm guessing because they can create the graphics engine around specific hardware that they know the console has, as opposed to PCs where some people might be running a laptop and other people like a 4090. As for the trophy list, all but I think probably 4 trophies you can just pick up through naturally playing the game, especially if you do a longer save. And those other 4 are relatively easy to achieve. You just have to go out of your way to actually achieve them. Overall, it's the best football manager simulator on console, and it gets a solid A. All right, guys, we're at the halfway mark now, so you know what that means. Yep, it's time to like the video if you made it this far, subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe even ring that notification bell so you get alerted the next time I upload. Hell, if you're really, really enjoying it, maybe even leave a comment letting me know you've made it this far, and maybe click share and then copy link. You don't need to send the link anywhere, but just pressing share and copy link counts as a share on the YouTube algorithm and will allow them to push it further. I'd massively appreciate it. The Last of Us Part 2. Now, as you can tell by the length of my video on this game, I had a lot to say. So if you want my full thoughts, I'm not going to repeat them all here. Just go watch that video. I'm very proud of it, and I'll try to keep this brief. I knew going into the game that it was a lot more controversial than the predecessor. Probably one of the most controversial games ever made, in fact. But I wasn't sure why. It quickly became apparent, though, when I played the first couple of hours. For me, my opinion is basically to remove the very relationship that anchored the whole of the first game and gave us that glimmer of hope. To remove that relationship and not have a proper replacement as well. You can say Dina, but let's be honest, Dina's relationship with Ellie is basically just Dina going along with whatever Ellie wants, other than that one time that she actually stands up for herself. So to get rid of that relationship between Ellie and Joel and not have a proper replacement just made the game feel so much darker in tone. And the directions they went with a lot of the characters, I simply don't agree with. Being told over and over again that violence isn't the answer in cutscenes, while in gameplay we're forced to kill hundreds and hundreds of soldiers, makes the game just feel like it's constantly at odds with itself. And then you have the second half where the pacing slows down to an absolute crawl, and a final act that's just not needed, in my opinion. I will admit, and I'll put my hands up in the air, the length of the game and it feeling like arduous to get through wasn't helped by the fact my first ever playthrough was on grounded difficulty, so it probably took me like an additional 10 hours to complete. I would 100% recommend grounded difficulty to people, never on a first playthrough. Just not knowing what encounter is coming up makes it 1,000 times harder. So for me, playing this game on grounded difficulty and then having just a very depressing narrative, felt like I was just being beaten to a pulp by the game's depressing narrative and my depressing inability to get through an encounter without dying at least 50 times. You know that scene in Avengers where Shrek is like... Shrek? No, Hulk. Hulk is like throwing Loki against the floor. That felt like me. One side we had the narrative, the other side we had my inability to play the game. As for the actual platinum experience, you'll need to complete at least one New Game Plus run through in order to get all the weapon parts to complete all the upgrades on the guns and all the supplements to upgrade both characters, which is not a good thing in my opinion. And in fact, if you're like me and did a run on grounded difficulty, chances are you're going to have to do 2.5, 3 run-throughs in order to get all those supplements to upgrade both characters. Despite the game and map design being actually superb and the combat being good fun, that wasn't enough alone to carry my enjoyment for this game through 3 whole playthroughs. By the end, it was a painful experience and I was glad it was over. As a game, I'd probably rank it like a C. As a platinum experience, I'm sorry, it's going into D. Just having to do multiple run-throughs of the game. No. This was a game that I'd actually already completed the story of in the past, but I wanted to get the platinum in each of the Ezio games. So I went back and finished off all the trophies that I had missed. Definitely the easiest platinum experience of all the Ezio trilogy, meaning you don't have to worry about optional objectives during missions or anything like that. You just have to complete the main story and then tidy up any miscellaneous trophies. Fuck those feathers, by the way. The story itself is a classic, and if you've never played the early AC games, I strongly recommend you do. The parkour can be a bit jank, and the combat can be boiled down to a simple wait for an attack, then counter and kill. But honestly, it's still a good time. AC2 was actually the only one of the Ezio trilogy that I played as a kid, and I never realized how well Ezio's life is told throughout all 3 games. AC2 marks the start of that arc, literally starting with his birth and guiding you through his teen and young adult years. Great game, fairly standard Ubisoft blow, but not as egregious as future installments. I'm going to chuck it in B. Talking about Ubisoft blow, yeah, I was in the same situation with AC Brotherhood that I was AC2, where I'd already completed the story, but hadn't completed all the miscellaneous trophies around the story. And this game, I have to admit, was a lot heftier a task than AC2 was. Puzzles, Borgia flags, feathers, Leonardo's machines, not to mention getting 100% sync in every mission in the game, the main story, and the DLC. This was a really painful platinum to achieve, and I'm not going to lie, is the main reason AC Revelations isn't on here. I just need a break. As the actual game goes and the gameplay goes, it's an improvement on AC2 mechanic-wise in almost every single way. New combat mechanics, more accurate parkour, though I do believe the story and villain, especially the villain in AC2, are superior than that in AC Brotherhood. Also, Venice is just such an iconic location in AC2, and half of Rome in Brotherhood is just wide open plains. I do think as a game, it's about level with AC2 in like around that B section, but once again, all those collectibles and the 100% sync requirement, it's a painful platinum experience. I'm gonna pull it back down into C. It's more of the first Spider-Man, but this time in a tighter, more streamlined, and more Christmassy package. What's not to love? I think it does a great job of setting up the events of Spider-Man 2, as well as letting the player get to know Miles, bond with him, without having the constant comparison of Peter looming over him. It really gives his character some much-needed time to breathe. I mean, like I said about the first game, Insomniac has found a winning formula when it comes to Spider-Man games, and after over 100 hours of playing these games and swinging through New York, I'm still not bored and I'm still looking forward to the future. I would have liked some new mechanics. I mean, the Venom abilities are cool, but the combat still does boil down to spam square and then maybe press circle when your spider sense goes and then go back to spamming square. But I appreciate this isn't like a full-length game, so I wasn't expecting brand new mechanics to be released in Spider-Man Miles Morales. It makes sense for them to have been kept for Spider-Man 2. As the platinum goes, it's a really short game. And you do need to do a New Game Plus run, but you can do a New Game Plus run. I think I did mine in about 6 hours, so it's not egregious at all. It's not like Last of Us Part 2, where that is like another 12, 15 hours, even if you try and speed run it. Overall, Platinum experience, really, really simple. I got it done in 17 hours. It's going right up there in A. I mean, what can I say? It's the same formula, but with a number of enhancements. Especially on the exploration side of the game, I love the web wings. I think it's so cool. It's so much fun. Once again, just clicking into that power trip fantasy that you want as a player playing a Spider-Man game. It does a great job of speeding up traversal while also still being satisfying. Stealth has also been massively improved with the introduction of the web line. I used it all the time. I love that. I think it's so cool. And again, I kind of wish it was in the game sooner, but I'm glad it's in there now. And the symbiote abilities are super satisfying, and they freshen up the combat somewhat. I still think they could have done more with the combat though, as it's still basically a square mashing simulator with the odd circle press pull in. The boss fights are a lot better in this game though. And I don't know if it's just me. I played all 3 of these games on spectacular difficulty, but I found it so much harder in Spider-Man 2. Like, it's still not a hard game, but far more challenging than the predecessors. And I like that at times. I mean, the lizard fight was fucking annoying. And as I mentioned in my video on the game, there are elements of the story specifically around the ending that I just think would have been better if they'd been done another way. Overall, though, it refreshes the previous games for a 2023 audience. It's graphically stunning, and I have to say, although I have my problems with the story, there are a lot of holy shit moments that had me grinning ear to ear. But in terms of the impact it had on me, I can't pull it alongside these 3 games. It didn't have the effect on me that those did. Like, it's a great game. I had an amazing time from start to finish, but I'd be lying if I said that it had the same impact on me that these 3 games had. So it's going in A, which feels quite harsh. It's more like an A+. Like, it is better than the previous iterations and Football Manager, if I'm honest. But it's just not quite good enough to reach the S tier. So I think it's fair to say that trophy hunting has lit the same collector fire within me that I had like as a kid when I was collecting Topps football cards, or even more recently when I needed that team of the season Alex Scott in FIFA Ultimate Team last year. But here it's introduced me to games that I would have never ordinarily played. If I was still on my sports game grind, I would never have played The Last of Us Part 2. I probably wouldn't have even bought Spider-Man 2. And I don't regret experiencing any of those games, even the ones I disagreed with. However, I'd be lying if I said there weren't times, even during these first 10 platinums, where I questioned what I was doing. Playing The Last of Us Part 2 3 times and spending over 10 hours cleaning up Assassin's Creed Brotherhood just so I can get some like pretty pixels on my profile. It doesn't seem worth it at the time. But once it was finished, I did have a certain amount of pride that I'd actually grinded that out and got those trophies. And stood here now in front of you with 10 platinums to my name, I still have a long list of other games that I want to platinum, and I cannot wait to dive in and start them. Will I be feeling the same in 6 months' time? I mean, I don't know, man. My brain is so erratic. It moves from fad to fad all the time. And come 6 months' time, this channel could look completely different and my brain's moved on to a new thing to be obsessed by. So I'm just enjoying it while I can. Tell you what, we'll touch base again at 25 platinums and see how I feel then. Before we end the video as well, I also just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you guys for all the support on the recent videos. Honestly, I didn't expect them to do nearly as well as they ended up doing. And all your kind words and support it's honestly heartwarming to read. So thank you. And we're not done. We're only getting started. The next game I'm going for is Ghost of Tsushima, a game I know nothing about, but have only heard amazing things. By the way, I just wanted to say, if you ever watch a video like one of my newest uploads and you're wondering what game I'm going for next, I always let you know in the description. So like on my Spider-Man 2 video, I put in the description that I was going to go for Ghost of Tsushima next. So if you're ever wondering what game I'm working on, just have a look in the video description. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for the support. If you could like, subscribe, ring the notification bell if you haven't already, that would be amazing. Comment below what your platinum you're most proud of. I know some of you probably have like 500 plus platinums. There are people who've been doing this for like 10, 15 years. And honestly, like, just fair play. It's incredible devotion. So just let me know down below what your favorite platinum is. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.